Hope I'm audible to everyone and voice is fine. Monish, can you call everyone from outside to inside so we can start the session? This is Dr. Mamta Sharma, Organizing Secretary for the International Conference ICTA DGEC 2023. It's a very happy and beautiful good morning to you all. I'm so pleased to see you back here. So before starting the session further today, let's worship Goddess Saraswati. माँ सरस्वती समस्त ज्ञान साहित्य और चेतना का प्रतिनिधित्व करती हैं, वे वेदों की जननी है। माँ सरस्वती की आराधना करते हुए हम इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के तीसरे दिन की शुरुआत करते हैं। Since we are already running a bit late in the session, so I won't speak much. So with a lot of respect and gratitude, I'd like to call upon keynote speaker, first keynote speaker of the day, Dr. Lakshman Khanal, Associate Professor, Central Department of Zoology, Tribhuvan University, Nepal. The session will be chaired by Dr. Pradeep Bhatnagar, Dean Faculty of Sciences, the IIS University, Jaipur, and former HOD Zoology University of Rajasthan, Jaipur, India. आप दोनों का बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है. So I would request the chairperson and the keynote speaker to start with the session.
From the lab of Himalayas, Central Himalaya, from Nepal, and I'm really glad to represent Nepal over this international conference all over. And thank you, Professor Hukum Singh, Dr. Mamta Sharma, for inviting me to this beautiful place representing my country, my university. Here, today, in this session, I'm briefly going to talk on the human-wildlife negative interaction in the Nepal Himalaya and how is it challenging the sustainable development. So my talk will be on three basic aspects today. What is the status of human-wildlife conflict in Nepal, and how human activities, anthropogenic activities, are escalating those conflicts, and what interventions or what management strategies are to be done for the management of those conflicts. So my first talk, my first focus will be on what is the status of the conflict in Nepal. So, the human-wildlife negative interaction, which we commonly call human-wildlife conflict, though some authorities, some scientists do not prefer the word conflict, while others they have been using it. This negative interaction, it is not a new one. It dates back to the prehistoric era, when human civilization started, when hunting-gathering stage of our civilization was there. This conflict started since then. But the severity and the complexity of this conflict has increased in the very recent past. And in the resource-limited areas like Himalayas, where resources are limited but diversity is high, and in such resource limited conditions there is competition between the people and wildlife, and that competition is leading into the conflict. One causing the harm to our human, harming the animals, and animals causing some harms to human. And in addition to that, current global warming or the climate change, which is one of the most important threat that human civilization is facing, that is affecting the Himalayan region severely. And there are multiple studies which have already been published that the effect of global warming, the rise in temperature, the rate of rise in temperature of the Himalayan region is much higher than the global average. And that is why that global warming had changed the phenology, it had changed the behavior of animals as well as the behavior of humans, and there is change in seasonality and everything. And this climate change has also contributed in the conflict. So before entering into the Nepal itself, if we look at the Trans-Himalayan region or the Hindu-Kush-Himalayan region in a broad aspect, we can see the conflict is localized in certain areas. In certain areas, the conflict is very high, while in some other areas, still, some areas are understudied, while other areas might be the conflict is not so high yet. And the recent trend, if we see, since 2009-10, the research publications are getting higher. It also signifies that conflict is increasing, that's why research is being done. And focusing into Nepal, I don't know how many of you have visited. If you have visited Nepal, you might have idea about the geography. In the central Himalayan region, not to UP and Bihar of India, Nepal lies, and we have three major physiographic zones. Lowland of Nepal is flat area like UP and Bihar, and this is our grain storage from where most of the grains are produced. And the middle light green colored area, it is our mid-hills, and mid-hill area, it is not so densely populated, but it has good forest, mixed forest is there. And above that, higher Himalayan region, very sparsely populated, very few people are living, and but the area is big. And regarding the protected areas, we have protected area, main protected areas which cover almost 23% of the total land surface of Nepal. And those protected areas, they are either in the lowland or in the higher elevation. Those green colored areas are protected areas. Mid-hills are rarely represented by, rarely covered by protected areas. And so human-wildlife conflict is distributed almost everywhere, starting from the very northeast to the northwest and southeast in the Mechinagar area, the Indian border of Nepal and India, to the far west border of Nepal with Uttarakhand. So everywhere, almost everywhere, the human-wildlife conflict cases have been reported from. And but the conflict causing animals and the pattern of conflict is different. In the lowland, Tarai area, conflict causing animals are elephants, rhinos. And in the mid-hills, we have leopards, black bear causing the conflict. And in the higher elevation, we have snow leopard. So the pattern of conflict and the conflict causing animals are also different. And if we look at the temporal pattern of conflict, how the conflict is changing, in the first figure, now recent publication, you can see the blue color represents the loss of wildlife, death or killing of wildlife, and the red lines represent the loss of human. Starting from 2000 to 2020. So both human loss and wildlife loss is increasing. And human loss and wildlife loss, in wildlife mainly the green line represents the leopards. Mostly retaliatory killing of leopard is happening, and in addition to that, other animals also, they are losing their life. And because of the wildlife, human population or human life is being lost, and the major consistently high loss is because of leopard. The green color represents the loss of human because of leopard. And in the recent, after 2014, 2015, the red line has gone much higher. It is because of single elephant, one elephant, causing the death of more than 20 people, which was just entered into its reproductive period, young elephant, male, and then it killed few people, 1 or 2 people were injured, and then government took some intervention. Forest department, what the forest department did is, forest department captured that elephant and caught its tusk. And the animal got much anger after that, and after that it killed many dozens of other people. That's why the red line is here going much higher because of elephant. Otherwise, human-elephant conflict was not so high in Nepal. But consistently high human population loss was due to leopard and mostly on the mid-hill area of Nepal. And looking at the causes, what is driving the conflict in Nepal, the study has confirmed that major cause of human-wildlife conflict is human activities, anthropogenic activities, and anthropogenic activities causing the land use, land cover change. That is confirmed to be the major cause of human-wildlife conflict. Besides that, food shortage, resource shortage, and then proximity to forest protected areas, and the next one, another cause is retaliatory killing. Wildlife causing some damage, causing crop loss, or attacking human, and humans in response killing those animals. Because of these activities, human-wildlife conflict is increasing, and it has resulted into the risk of food insecurity. People like rhesus monkeys, elephant, rhinos are damaging the crops, and there is risk of food insecurity. And even school children during the crop harvesting period or when cropping season is there, they are not going to school, they are not attending the school, instead they are guarding their crop. So dropout rate is increasing. School dropout, children drop out from school, and human injury and death. These are the effects seen on human. Besides that, animals are losing their life by the retaliatory killings, and there are some threatened animals which are already threatened, and when such threatened animals are involved in conflict, there is chances of their extinction, risk of extinction. And these studies show that almost everywhere, mostly in the central Nepal, this is the possibility of crop prediction, and this is hotspot mapping for the human-wildlife conflict, likelihood that animals are killed or wildlife loss in those areas, hotspots for wildlife loss. So this is the scenario of human-wildlife conflict in Nepal, and how anthropogenic activities are leading those is human population increased, human demand increased, and then humans started to use the natural resources recklessly. And that has caused the loss of habitat for the wildlife, and when their natural habitat has been lost, wildlife has started entering into the human settlement and conflict has increased. And this has been confirmed by another study in which how is land use, land cover change happening in Nepal, and it confirmed that the settlement area, build-up area, those red dots are increasing, and even forest is increasing in the mid-hills, but in some areas there is deforestation also. And forest is increasing in the mid-hills, some wildlife population like monkey population is increasing, leopard population is increasing, and so is conflict increasing. Because people are migrating from mid-hills or the rural areas towards urban areas, and agricultural fields are turning into barren land, and those barren land after 5-10 years are turning into forest, and wildlife are approaching close to the human settlement, and conflict is increasing. Besides this, another cause is the illegal hunting. we have only one hunting region and only one species that is allowed to be hunted, is legally hunted, is blue seal. Otherwise, there is no legal hunting provision in Nepal. But illegal hunting has been reported for many animals, like illegal hunting of rhinoceros, hunting of pangolins, and its poaching towards the northern border of Nepal towards China, and hunting of red panda for its skin and export. So such illegal hunting is also causing the conflict, loss of wildlife population, like only because of poaching, the Chinese pangolin has been turned into critically endangered species. The main cause is population decline due to poaching. So this is another cause. The third cause for increase in human-wildlife conflict is infrastructure development. Infrastructure is human need. We need to develop the infrastructure, but when those infrastructure are not well planned, that has resulted into the increase in conflict. In the first photograph you can see, this is the road just to reach into a hydropower project. So this is just an access road reaching to the hydropower project, and then the entire hill area has been, that used to be the wildlife habitat, it has been changed into the road. So wildlife have lost their habitat, and they will go towards human settlement. In the second study, this is the ongoing project. It is a dam-based hydroelectric project which is estimating to produce 2,500 megawatt of electricity, blocking the river, creating a dam and producing hydroelectricity from that. And that dam, we studied on that dam, and there is one species of monkey, which is Assam monkey, Assamese monkey we call it, Macaca assamensis. And this species in IUCN Red List, it is listed as near threatened, and in Nepal we have very small population of this species, and we have protected it. It is legally protected by the National Park and Wildlife Conservation Act of Nepal. Population is very small, but because of this project, what would be the effect on the habitat of this species? We studied. We surveyed the river basin, and we found there are 4 distinct groups of these macaques, and we observed these macaques for the whole year to determine what is their habitat range, where do they go. In all seasons we studied, and we plotted those points, GPS points, and we prepared in a map, and we overlaid that with the proposed dam. The blue line represents the area which will be covered by the water when this project is on operation. So we found that out of 4 groups we observed, the upper yellow one, pink, this dark yellow and red, 3 groups will lose their habitat completely, and 1 group will lose more than 70% of its habitat. So when their current habitat will be inundated, when it will be covered with water, animals will be forced to move towards the human settlement. Either they need to die or they should go towards human settlement, and that will increase, either they become extinct or that will increase the human-wildlife conflict. In the same way, another conflict causing factor, or what the reason for loss of wildlife, is power line collision. Hydroelectricity is our main resource. It is the main source of energy for mountainous country like Nepal, and this type of power lines or transmission lines, these transmission lines are causing the collision of birds and bats, plus electrocution of these animals, and then we are losing even critically endangered white-ground vultures have also been died because of the collision in these electric wires. And this is important because many migratory birds, you can see, I think in the winter season you might see many migratory birds coming into the lakes of Rajasthan also here. They all come from Kazakhstan, Serbia and other areas through Himalaya. This is the intercontinental migratory species, and these migratory species, they pass through Himalaya and they have certain route of passing. And when such transmission lines are in the migratory routes, there is possibility of collision. Windmills transmission lines, these are causing the collision and death of wildlife. But these wires, electric wires, they don't have negative effect only. In urban areas of Kathmandu, monkeys are using these electric cables for crossing the road. Yes, there is positive aspect also. They are using. And in one of the studies we found that females and young ones use these wires more frequently than the males. Because males are heavier and they are not scared of crossing the road. But females and young ones, they are scared of crossing the road and they are using the wire to go across the road. And we found significant difference, sex-based difference, age-based difference on the use of these cables. But currently, what is happening in Kathmandu is all these cables are being underground. Cables are making underground. So what will be the effect? Because these animals are adapted in the urban area, these monkeys. They are adapted using these wires while crossing the road. But when those wires are not there, what will be the effect? We don't know. So we need to assess these, and there is one research opportunity for us, but maybe the animals will be stressed more and conflict will increase. And here I am sharing with you one tragic event, not only one. In the last 3 years, we recorded 6 these tragic events. They are in the hilly areas of Nepal. These artificial ponds are constructed for harvesting the rainwater and using that water during the dry season for irrigation. They are not so big, just 5-6 meter long, and depth is about 7-8 feet, not more than that. And in these cases, you can see many monkeys, they lost their life drowning into this water. Small pond, but monkeys are drowned. I saw rhesus monkeys are here in Rajasthan. You might have seen them, they are very good swimmers. We have seen them crossing rivers also, big rivers also. And these animals, they can swim when the ponds are full. When the ponds are filled with water, they can swim, they can come out. And when the water is used, when the pond is half filled, they still go for swimming, but they couldn't come out. The reason, you can see the wall is cemented, fully cemented, there is nothing to anchor, and when the animal is swimming, the thrust is not enough to jump, so animals tried coming out, tried, all energy lost, fatigue, and ultimately drowned. One or two animals drowned or dead in water, others went for rescue. And an entire group died. In one event, we found 33 monkeys dead. The least size, out of those 6 events, the least size was of 9 monkeys. So there is such tragic event because of small construction. If there was a small rope hanging, or if there was just a single bamboo in the pond, monkeys would have come out easily. There was nothing, and they died as they couldn't come out. And at the beginning, even newspapers, when the first event happened, first accident happened, newspapers reported it is because of poisoning. People poisoned the monkeys and killed. There was big rumor, but locals said no, no one has poisoned them. And the similar event happened in another place. And after that, in one of the events, luckily we found some video recorded by the local boy. And we analyzed that video and we related that with the behavior of the monkey, and we found that it is because they went for swimming but they couldn't come out. So human construction, very small construction, can also cause such a huge loss. And the next is roadkill, which you all are familiar with, and highways are there, and these highways are crossed by, actually we have made the highways cutting the forest, the highways pass through the forest, and animals, while they cross, then there is chances of wildlife vehicle collision and loss of wildlife. There are many such incidences, many wildlife in real life, and which animals are more susceptible, it depends on their age, sex, dispersal ability, how fast they can move, and what is the traffic pressure on that highway, what is the vehicle velocity. These different factors affect. And the next thing, another factor causing the human-wildlife conflict, because of human, there is climate change, there is global warming, there is change in phenology, there is decrease in food availability to the carnivores like snow leopard, and then snow leopard is attacking on wildlife. So far, we haven't got, in Nepal, we haven't got snow leopard attacking on human, but while the livestock have been depredated very frequently, and that has caused the conflict. So, what should be our management intervention to minimize those? I haven't listed, or I'm not going to discuss all here. Some of the major management interventions which we have started, which we have recommended for the policy makers, I will be discussing here. So, in the previous days, in last 2 days, many speakers already discussed about sustainable development goals defined by UN, so I'm not going to talk about these. Wildlife is one of our renewable resource, and we are losing the resource because of our own activities. So, for the ecological, economic, legal provision, social region, cultural, emotional, as well as ethical region, we should protect these wildlife. So, for that, the major cause is the loss of habitat. Excessive use of natural resources by human is causing wildlife habitat loss. That's why we need to reduce our dependence to natural resources. Instead of firewood, we should go towards electricity, and instead of petrol, diesel, that is carbon emitting vehicles, we should go towards the electric vehicles. And let me tell you, in Nepal, if we buy one petrol or diesel car, we need to pay 300% tax. A car that costs 10 lakh in India, that costs more than 35 lakhs in Kathmandu. But if we are buying electric vehicle, we just need to pay 23% tax. 13% is VAT, 10% is custom tax, custom duty. So just 23%. That's why in Kathmandu these days I can see many Tata Nexon EVs, then petrol and diesel. So there is paradigm shift from petrol diesel engine towards electric vehicle, and not now, but in the long run, I think this type of shift will help in reducing global warming and human dependence towards natural resources, and will help in reducing the conflict. Besides this, in the trans-Himalayan migratory route of birds, we have recommended the government not to install windmills and not think about the alternatives for transmission line, not taking them across, take the transmission line along so that it can reduce the collision of birds with those transmission lines. And next, to minimize the road kills, we need to improve our road conditions, we need to use signs on the roads, and we need to construct tunnels. I studied one paper, success story for giant panda conservation in China. Chinese government constructed only tunnels in the habitat of giant panda. They didn't make the surface roads here, and it saved the habitat. So that could also be possible. That could be necessary for Himalayan country like Nepal, because tunnel, I think ultimately it will be cheaper in the long-term use rather than making bent road over the hilly areas. And artificial wildlife crossing areas can also minimize proper sign. And next is, I have seen in many states of India also these canopy bridges, connecting two trees on either side of the road using the ropes or threads, artificial bridge, which we call canopy bridges. I have seen these used in Assam for gibbons, in Odisha and even Telangana. I have seen some papers in which the use of canopy bridges have been recommended. And in Nepal also, in the east-west highway, we have installed many such canopy bridges, and study has reported it has been used most extensively by arboreal animals like Hanuman langur, rhesus monkeys, and even some rodents also we have recorded using those canopy breezes. It will reduce the collision. Besides, government has started, instead of lethal ways like using firecrackers, drums, or even guns to chase elephants, government has, at many places, government has installed electric fencing for elephant, and we can use ultrasonic repellent. We have recommended the farmers to use it, and this story is successful, using honey bees to repel elephants. This is successful in Africa. In Kenya, it has been successful. I have studied some papers, but for Asian elephant, whether it is successful or not, it is still not true. There was one study from Thailand for Asian elephant. They used one species of honeybee, Apis mellifera, and they said that the success rate was 50% only. So they didn't recommend it. So might be, instead of Apis mellifera, if we choose other species of honeybee. So in Kenya, how is it successful? Is on the fence, at every 6 meters they are keeping a beehive. And when elephants come, disturb, honeybees go, and then the honeybees attack close to the ear and the trunk of elephant, and the elephant runs away. So this has been successful in Kenya, but this is not proven yet its effectiveness is not tested. It is not proven for Asian elephant. So it could be one alternative. So we might need to think about it. So without taking much time here, now I would like to conclude. Regarding the status of human-wildlife conflict, my many slides suggest that the conflict is increasing. Human-wildlife conflict is increasing in the foothills of Himalaya, and the major driver for the human-wildlife conflict is human activities itself rather than the animals. And for the sustainable management of wildlife, that is essential. Sustainable management of wildlife is essential to fulfill the human demand or human requirements for the future, and for that we need to think wisely so that only we can create harmonious environment between the human and wildlife. So I conclude with these 3 statements. Thank you. Thank you.
Professor Lakshman, for a very informative and nice lecture, and which is very relevant to this conference also. Now, something I was very much, this was the news for me, that the monkey, they were dying because of some, but that can be solved by putting some stair, or as you told you, that some bamboo or like that.
Yes.
Can be.
Yes.
Yes, really. So
just a piece of bamboo is enough to.
Only one bamboo is there.
Yeah, that is it.
So here discuss the changes took place in the behavior of the wildlife, and because of due to the deforestation, like another many factors like construction, increase in the temperature, etc. Now in India also, the same is because it is the food of the India also, that due to the construction of many hydro power stations, particularly in the state of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Through construction of road and construction of numerous buildings that are resulting in the depletion of the forest area. So what will happen when the forest area will be depleted? Where the inhabitant of that forest will go? Simply, we will come to our colonies. Simply that. So due to the rise in the human, particularly human population also, and that caused the depletion in the herbivorous animals. Herbivorous animals, deer वगैरह the forest में तो वो भी नहीं है. Then what will happen? Herbivorous animals, they will come, they need the food. They will visit the human inevitably and try to feed on the hunt on the animals, domestic animal. including human beings, because they are the easy brain, and they convert into the, we call them then as a man-eaters. Man-eaters, and you must have heard the name of zinc orbit. He has written many articles and books on this problem also, in the conflict between the human population and the wildlife. Now I know that in the foothill, Tarai area of the Himachal Pradesh and the Uttarakhand, it was very full of very, very dense forest. That area. Now, during the partition of the country, the refugees they had come, that area was allotted to them, mostly the sick person. So they actually need something to live. So the forest will be cleared for the agriculture purposes. And that is a very good area. Of course, agriculture-wise is also very fertile. So what happened was animal inhabiting that area. So many animals they become the man-eaters. They start coming in the human evolution area, and the conflict was there. Now, the human activities is, you can discuss many things here. Recently, you have heard invented about user because of the construction of the particularly hydropower station. You must have the जोशीमठ का नाम सुना ना आपने? क्या होगा? ऐसे बहुत जगह होगा। तो ये हमको सोचना पड़ेगा। इस चीज़ के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा सोचना पड़ेगा। Wild animals are as important as we are. Universe may record the status of the or we are all animals. We are also animals. We think that we are very much evolved. But basically by nature, nature has got animals. One variety of animals, primates and Homo sapiens and things like that. So we have to think about this also. So really very interesting and formative lecture given by Professor Lakshman here. And the conditions of Nepal and India, they are exactly the same. There is no difference. You can discuss Nepal or discuss India also. Okay, so any question please? It was very interesting subject. Rajasthan में भी हो रहा है conflict. Rajasthan के उसमें आप देखिए.
क्वेश्चन में से कवर में जब मैंने आया बात इस्कॉन 2017 की बात बताता हूँ 2 दिन के लिए मैं इस्कॉन मंदिर काठमांडू में गया था तो पूरे कैंपस के अंदर फेंसिंग लगी हुई थी क्योंकि वहाँ पर मंकी बहुत ज़्यादा मंकी थे पूरे फेंसिंग से गेट की जिससे कि मंकी हम उनको डिस्टर्ब नहीं कर क्वेश्चन ये कि जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है मैन वाइल्ड लाइफ और क्लाइमेट चेंज का वो बड़ा क्रिटिकल इशू है वो नेचर को आज किस तरह से क्लाइमेट चेंज एकदम चेंजिंग हो जाता है हैबिटेशन चेंज हो रही है उसका खान पीन चेंज होगा ह्यूमन बीइंग का खान पीन चेंज हो रहा है तो कहीं ना कहीं वो अटैक कर रहा है मैं भी 2 दिन रह के आया था गोरखपुर से गए थे बस के अंदर गए थे 2 दिन रहा था देखा होगा जब वापिस आता 2017 की बात
एक मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि suggested the electric wiring. So it may be dangerous also for the other animals.
No, Professor. That fencing we don't use alternating current. We use direct current for that.
Okay.
So it gives a minor shock, but it doesn't cause electrocution. Yeah. It is direct current, DC, not AC. Yeah. We use solar panels and we use direct current, not alternating current.
Nowadays, the government is constructing many underpass like that.
Yeah.
In India also, they are preparing like underpass, overpass, like that. But the animal, they have to train to use those passes. ऐसे मालूम पड़ेगा कि हम यहाँ से क्रॉस कर रहे हैं आदमी को नहीं मालूम कि हमें सड़क कहाँ से ज़ेब्रा क्रॉस करनी है या कैसे करनी है
No, for that also we can construct barrier on the road and at certain places where we live. So this is called wildlife channeling. Construct the barrier on the road, animals moves along the barrier, and then when there is no barrier, only then animals cross.
So within a few course of time they will be trained to
Yes,
cross
they will.
the highways. Okay, once again, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Professor Lakshman, for a very nice
Thank you very much, Professor. I am so grateful that I could find you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, his father, Professor Bhatnagar, was the founder of my department in human nutrition. So, if you say Dr. Mamta owes Professor Bhatnagar, I also do it. I respect you, Professor. Thank you very much.
The speaker and the chairperson for such a lovely and a wonderful session. Yes, Dr. Khalil, he has been my guide, he has been my teacher, and I call him my academic father. Whatever I am doing just because of purely toxicology. So, with this we move to our next session. Our next keynote speaker is the most lovely and most popular speaker, Professor Raj Mendamare, Associate Professor, Department of Human Health and Sciences, Faculty of Nursing, Mehkawan University, Edmonton, Canada. The session will be chaired by another popular person, Dr. Premati Shriki, Director, Dr. SSIF, Ingo, Perak, Malaysia. Sir, आपका स्वागत है, आपका पूर्ण स्टेज पर।
For such a flattering introductions. Good morning and namaskar everyone. I am incredibly indebted, honored and humbled to be the part of this most exciting conference again. It is my pleasure to see you all, those who were present last year in the symposium, and it's also nice meeting you, the new keynote speaker and the new attendees. My name is Raj Mendamare, and I was born and brought up in India. And whenever I have a chance to come back to India, and whatever capacity I can contribute, it has always been my pleasure. So everyone here, those who have born and brought up, educated and move on to the abroad for either higher studies or for their profession, folks, this is our payback time to the country and the nation that we actually once belongs to. And it is so nice that every one of us, whatever circumstances we are, we come down together and basically share our expertise. And so I am so grateful to RRC, who has managed to put all of us under one umbrella. It's like a family. And even though we are from the various diverse background, but we have one common objective, is to come down here to India and contribute to the field of your study or the field of your particular research area. Right? And so I don't want to be the first one to blame, but RRC has been very phenomenal to bring us all together. And so, the Dr. Sharma and the Professor Singh ji are the backbone of this initiative, right? So what we have done for last 2 days and even for today, that we share the expertise. One common conclusion is that there is the human interactions with the nature, which is actually, going to be very disastrous unless we take some concrete step, right? Now, the purpose of this conference is not only to contribute to, but also prepare the next generation so that they can actually, do the informed decision about their living and also about their surrounding everywhere, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, I am not an ecologist. I am not what is called the toxicologist for sure, and I am also not the economist. I am simple researcher and the educationist. My area is not actually the teaching research. I am neuroscientist by profession. I spend a lot of time working on the human brain, looking at how much and what we eat is controlled by the brain by producing the neuropeptide. I also looked at how brain communicates with the immune system when you are, have a disease, infection, or you are highly stressed out. So I did that one for 15 years now. It's lots of work, but last 5 to 6 years, since I I started teaching the human anatomy and physiology, I was simply simple zoologist and biologist from India. But did you see, when you step out of the country and go to the abroad, you have an opportunity to change your area. So now I started teaching human anatomy, physiology and the pathophysiology to the Bachelor of Science in Nursing and the psychiatric nursing student, and then I involved in the teaching research, right? So before I begin to my presentation this morning, again I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Professor Uttam Singh ji and also Dr. Mamta Sharma ji for having you and me. So before I start my presentation, I want to actually talk something else also. So number one, there are two questions I want to ask you. How many of you teach a course that is a prerequisite to the subsequent courses in your program of study? Meaning that, do you teach the knowledge or the subject you teach, how much knowledge of the subject you actually introduce in the second, third and fourth year of your program of study? Please raise the hand. Anyone? You teach the subject and you carry on that knowledge to the rest of your degree program. Okay? Second, what is the common thing in all of us? Whether you are professor, you are educationists, you are researchers, or you are a chair or the dean of your department. What is the most common thing in all of us? And that is the teaching. Right? So teaching is actually passion and we have verified, right? But here's the thing, guys. The teaching has evolved. A substantial act is in the part of the world I am from. I am not sure in India how the teaching is done, and I would love to go in the classroom and see how the teaching has performed in India, right? Another thing, there's a growing way that the teaching actually moving from the passive teaching and learning to the active learning teaching. And this is where I'm going to actually show you some of the things, right? Now, another thing. Some of the strategy I'm going to introduce, you might have to design your curriculum if you are teaching at an institution, and that curriculum include the following thing. Number one, your curriculum should favor the student engagement. Number one. Number two, it also improve the knowledge of your subject area. Your curriculum design should also aim to actually, there's a more interaction between you and your student. And number three, you also should make your student socially interactive, critical thinking, and the independent thinker. And above all, you should design your curriculum or syllabus in such a way that the knowledge you introduce to a student, they should be able to remember the rest of their life. So I teach the nursing student, and they go to take the patient care. And inadequate knowledge of the human body can lead to the medical error and quite often compromise the patient's safety, right? And so this morning, what I really wanted to do is to talk about the active and passive. So if you look at this one, your curriculum, if you are a professor and you are actively involved in teaching, your actually curriculum should include the active learning. What do you mean by the active learning? The learning which you engage your student in the classroom, and number two, you also make your student what you actually call the accountable for learning, right? Now those are some of the most important advantages. So any professor, any one of you who engage your student as an active learning, look at them, they actually perform better. Their academic performance is much better than the passive learning. So most of you probably just go walk in a classroom, teach, give the exam, report their grades, and you're done. But the active learning actually have proven the student perform very well. They retain the knowledge of the subject, they have a better interaction, and they talk to each other, sharing the knowledge of your courses to each other. Number three, what is important is that when you involve your student engagement in your classroom, your student actually be able to retain the knowledge of your course, not only long-term time, but also in their future courses, right? So the conclusion is that any one of you who has involved in the teaching of the Right. So next thing, what I want to do is that, so why did I, adapted the active learning? The problem is that I was also teaching like just walking in the classroom, teaching and doing my job and going home. But then, when they go in the third and fourth year, they were not remembering anything what I taught. And imagine nursing student taking care of the patient and not remembering where the liver is or what the function of the liver is and what is the anatomy of your brain. And that was actually coming back. And somebody told me, hey, Rahan, I actually asked the questions to your student about human body, and they were just like staring at the room. And this is where I concerned. So I started digging into literature, and I was actually very concerned. Look at this data. So the nursing, the medical, and also allied health, such as the physiotherapy, occupational therapy, they struggle to retain and apply the knowledge of the human body they learn in the first year. Look at the demographic. Around 92% medical students don't remember or they lose around 50 to 80% of the anatomy and the physiology knowledge when they are in their final year. Those are medical student guys. And if they actually going to look at the patient or care of the patient is going to die because of the misdiagnosis. Did you see where I am getting into? Number two, 14% of the final medical student, they think the anatomy knowledge is very crucial, but they don't remember at all. And when I looked at this one, there was nothing in the nursing student, and this is where I actually started my project, right? So this morning, I wanted to talk about the very important aspect. Number one, I'm going to tell you what or how you can actually assess or evaluate the knowledge of your courses in the first year, and then how you can actually track your student to find out how much they remember, and then based on that one, you can develop the interventional strategy. Okay, number three. So now, in order for you to assess or evaluate the knowledge acquisition of your course in your first year, and then basically find out how much knowledge of your course your students are able to transfer, lose, retain, and apply in the subsequent years of nursing, you need to have the proper evaluating method, right? And so the research method I actually use is actually, so you have to design the proper method. One of the most easily available method, and that is, basically can be found on the online, we actually call the code. Anyone here who are teaching uses this code. This is the online bridging game. Okay, just create the account and you can make the number of the questions from your chapter and give to your student every day, guys. If you're teaching the one topic, make a Kahoot and give to the student. This is the most convenient and the easiest and the one of the easiest method of the immediate learning outcomes of your course or your chapter, right? So now by using this method, what I did, we wanted to know how much knowledge of my anatomy and physiology my nursing student applied in the first year. And then I want to know how much of that knowledge they are able to transfer in the second year, third year, and fourth year of their degree program. So by using the Kahoot, what I did, I actually developed around 9 to 11 multiple choice questions, right? And those questions were delivered to the first year student. That gave me the knowledge acquisition, right? And then same questions were given to the same student, but they were enrolling in the second year, third and fourth year. So I keep the variable constant. So only thing changes the year, right? And so the data, and then I did that one for 11 organ systems, the major organ system of the body, right? Now, I will come back to this one. The result of this study clearly shows that the overall knowledge acquisition of the anatomy student in the first year was around 83%. That actually significantly dropped to around 66.5% in the second year, 68% 2.2 in the third year, and 70.4 in the fourth year. Meaning that if they retain the 66% of the knowledge, they lost around 32.5% in the first year, the 31.8% in the third year, and the 29 to 30% in the fourth year, right? And so the good news is that they were able to retain around 70 to 75% of their first year anatomy knowledge throughout their nursing program, which is good, right? Now, next thing I want to know whether their knowledge acquisition and the retention is, non-specific. So what I did, in order to find out how their knowledge retention reflects, on the year basis, this is what we have. Now, what is interesting, if you look at here, there are organ systems, for example, the head, neck, and lymphatic, and also, you are actually in the cranial nerves. They actually have better acquisition, right? But when they go in the second, third, and fourth year, they lose around 60% of that. So that's means they were not able to remember much of the knowledge they learned in the first year, on those organ systems. But if you look at here, some of those organ systems, such as the, first of all, the gastrointestinal and the respiratory system, they have a lowest acquisition. They did not acquire much of the knowledge, but when they go in the second, third, and fourth year, they remember most of it because they only lost around 10 to 30%, right? And so by this table, what you actually can see that knowledge acquisition in the first year as a transfer, loss, retention, and the application varies from one organ system to the other organ system. And this is another table. You see in certain organ system, they have a better retention, and in the other organ system, they lost most of it. So we did not understand what was happening, why some of the students have a better understanding of their body in the first year, and they don't remember anything when they go in the second, third, and fourth year. And that actually prompted me to look at some of those impacting factors, right? Now, the teaching and the learning is the most complex process. And any one of you are involved in the heavily teaching, those are some of the factors that can impact your teaching and learning of classes, right? Now, when it comes to talk about the factors that impact your teaching and learning, there's a huge list of it. And it is out of my scope this morning to talk about all those factors. So what I did, everyone, I actually divided the factors that affect our teaching and learning into the student-related factors that affect the teaching and learning, and also the professor or the faculty-related factor, right? I am not going to go through them, but what I did, I actually personally investigated the impacting factors that affect the teaching and the learning of the human body and the regeneration. And here is, now, in the faculty of nursing where I am working, the teaching and the learning of the human anatomy and physiology is impacted by the number of the teaching hours. I do not know how many teaching hours you get to teach a course, but in Canada, in Europe and North America, you only get 45 hours for one course. And your textbook is like 800 pages. So there's a huge pressure for us to complete your actual anatomy course within the 45 hours. Out of that 45 hours, we have final exam and the midterm exam. That leaves only 26 hours. Can you imagine, everyone, in a 26 hours, you have to complete the course and transfer the knowledge to your student effectively? Impossible, right? That's one factor. Second factor is also the class time. Did you know the simplest factor that can affect the teaching and the learning of your courses to your student is the time of your class, right? And look at here, the student who had a class at 11 o'clock performed better than the student who had a class at 8 o'clock. So that's the time of the class effect, and that is true because in North America, students take the 5 courses, and sometimes they stay late. They try to work on their assignment. Sometimes in winter there's minus 35 outside. Your roads are piled up in the snow. Sometimes they miss the classes. And when they come to classes, they are tired. And so that also affects their teaching and the learning. Number 3, also the semester, right? We have 4 semesters in North America. The fall, winter, spring, and the summer. Look at here. So the students who were enrolled in the fall semester perform much better compared to the students who were actually taking the classes into the winter. So the semester can also affect the teaching program of the choice, I teach the psychiatric nursing student and the nursing student. Psychiatric nursing student takes the 4-year degree and the psychiatric nursing students only 25 months, right? And so the choice of the program also affects your knowledge retention in your program of the study. Okay. Now, one thing is very clear from this is that there is a problem. Students are not able to remember some of the knowledge of the courses they retain or acquire in the first year, and they struggle to transfer that knowledge to the final year or third year degree program. So in order to mitigate the knowledge gap between the first year and the subsequent years of the nursing, I have come up with some of the strategy that I want to share with you in the next period, right? So there are 4 strategies I personally introduced that will help my student to be better student, with a higher academic performance as well as the student engagement, right? So I use the teaching technology. I'm going to talk about that, but I also use the unhappy images in their exam. Number 3, I also use or expose my student to the failures online and in-class activity. And lastly, I also use one of the most effective teaching strategies called the content reinforcement. Forcing your student to learn over and over. Right? So let's go to the first one. Here we go. Now I am very fortunate. My department has purchased 1.2 crore rupees machine called the virtual human cadaver. Right? So I actually use the most sophisticated and also the most modern and the cutting-edge teaching technology called 3-dimensional virtual human cadaver called Anatomas, right? And so this is actually this is the perfect investment of the human body. And what you have, and you can see me, all my students are surrounding with me, is a table 6 by 2, 4, and we have a virtual human body. So all the images, all the structure you see are taken from the actual human cadaver and transformed into the 3D images that you can increase, decrease, or rotate to the 360 degree. Okay? You can also, here we go, you can also cut the section to the body and reveal the internal anatomy. I touch on the heart and heart comes out. The heart is actually pumping, and then I take a knife which is on the skin and I cut the heart halfway through. You can actually see internal anatomy. I do CT scan, MRI, ultrasound, and also the X-ray. So you see. So this is the technology. Now, next thing we wanted to know that whether using such a sophisticated technology really helps students to understand and improve their knowledge. Yes. So the result from this study clearly shows that the use of the anatomas actually significantly increased their class average in all 3 midterms and the final exam. This also has resulted in a significant increase in their GPA, right? So guys, the advantage of using the virtual human cadaver is that it actually provides the real life scenario. It actually provides an actual image of your own body. Number 2, it also provides a source of how, if you go back again here, look at here. So by doing that one, you actually bring the student together. So when you bring together, they talk to each other. So when they talk to each other, they develop the 2 skills, one the social and the communication skill, which is very, very actually important, right? So those are some of the most important advantages. And number 3, when I put any image in the exam, and because they actually practice on the human cadaver, the moment they see that image, they start recalling the knowledge, right? And so it also helps them to recall the knowledge in their exam guys, okay? Second important strategy that I use is that because I teach the human anatomy, and as you know, human anatomy consists of the numerous images of the body. And the research actually has shown that using the body's images can improve the visualization. Number 1. Number 2, it also reduces the exam stress and anxiety. The moment